Hey,
It's Friday in Clearwater,
it's
Florida.
Friday.
Funny,
It's Friday. I wasn't expecting that like almost broadcaster voice. It's Friday, Clearwater,
I'm
Florida.
just
It's
still
Friday.
coming alive over here.
Yeah, we had like a made see in our world, especially since this is kind of like coffee talk. This is the morning show.
Mhm.
We're supposed to have coffee.
We are.
And last night before we went to bed, we were like, oh, we need to go get coffee. And so, then we go to bed and we wake up and Jim goes into the kitchen because he's gonna get a pot of coffee on and he's like, crap.
We forgot coffee. There's no
We don't have
coffee.
any coffee. I mean,
So-
it was luckily
Yeah.
he was able to get to the local grocery store before, anything got kind of
Yeah,
ugly.
there's priorities.
And then it was funny because when he went, those of you who know Jim know that he is a lover of donuts.
There's just no story that's off limits with you, is there? Go ahead. I'm listening.
So while he was there, he picked up a maple donut, which many of you that know him well, he makes the joke frequently that he's like 1/4 maple donut because it's our favorite kind of donut ever. So
I just also say that I'm no longer welcome at the hot yoga studio because when I left out, there was a big puddle of maple under the floor or on the floor where I was doing my exercise. So yeah,
you're like, why does it smell like Vermont in here?
That's right. Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah, well,
But they're tasty.
oh, they're really, really good. So we that a problem was averted, and we have our coffee. Apparently, I haven't drank enough of it yet because my mouth is not catching up, or my brain's not catching up to what it is that I'm uttering. So, so happy Friday! It's
We have one announcement, and I want to also put in a plug. I didn't tell you I was going to do this, Michelle, but I checked Brett Buick's fundraiser this morning, and it is just short of the target that I know he set. And after watching how much sweat and effort and commitment he put into that, I want to do anything I can to help him take that thing, over the top.
Yeah.
And also, he released a very heartfelt.
It was beautiful
video about his own experiences around that and why that thing was so important to him. And I'm just going to challenge. I'm going to challenge dealers to try to help raise that last little bit. Or if you're one of our vendor connections listening and you can help put this thing over the top, I'd like to see if I can get 10 dealers to pledge $300.
I love this.
10 dealers.
Yeah, it's like 10 dealers.
Any of our buy here, pay here dealers out there who can stand it in their budget to do $300.
Yeah.
Just I'll put the link in the comments on where
we
to
should
find
put a
Brett's.
link in the comments about the video that Brett did.
Yeah, for sure.
At the
So
end
it'd
of
give you a very good feeling.
Yeah.
It was why he was so driven to do that.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, he did what did he do? 4 miles every 4 hours
for 48 hours.
Amazing. Completed
and it was also push-ups.
Yeah.
And I know Bill Elizondo joined him in that.
Chad Martin
did a little bit. And
I bet the push-ups was the easy part. The pushing through 4 miles every 4 hours.
Just the sheer exhaustion.
And granted, Brett's very fit and very, was prepared for it. But I'm just saying the emotional part of that is something I would like to see us support. And just, you can hear Brett's story and get an idea of how real that thing is for him. And let's see if we can get 10 dealers to do $300 and let's push this thing up to that.
What I hear is that this is someday you may see us do a telethon of some kind.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
That could potentially be fun.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the cause? And I think that would actually, we could have a lot of fun with calling people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Too on that.
Of course.
So, that's something that we should think about doing for something that's a good cause.
Because we need more stuff to do. This is what we need.
Yeah.
We got. No, that's okay. I totally see that in our future. I totally see that in our future. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a lot to do, we've got those of you who have not taken the opportunity to go to BHPHNation.com and take a look at our roadmap. Please do that. And you can also pre-register for the the official launch of BHPH Nation. And
we're excited about
we're
that.
excited about that.
I think it's going to be so good for the industry, vendors, dealers.
Oh my
everybody.
goodness, we've been working on a lot of the vendor lists and the framework and how that's going to get put together. And so yeah, you'll see more of that coming up here pretty soon. And I think that we're on a really good track, and before too long we will be live. So those of you who have not looked at the roadmap, and those of you who have not pre-registered for the nation, please go to bhphnation.com. And again, this is a nonprofit. This is nothing to do with Jim and Michelle, and
we're just the ones
building it because it's really something that we've seen the industry really needs. There's going to be vendor page. There's also going to be an education page. There's going to be resources where we're actually, it's not going to be Jim and Michelle education. It's like a place where you can go to find all of the things that are out there for education from all the educators, from the national, state organizations to individual companies. All of the stuff will be there.
You mentioned state associations, which mentioned me. I've been meaning to tell our listeners that they can kind of stay tuned in for subliminal messages throughout our show. I've started to do that. I didn't even share with Michelle some of these subliminal messages that I have installed in the morning show. No, it's not that. It's like, on Wednesday we do White Hat Way, and I don't know if anybody's paid attention, but if you spell White Hat Way backwards, it's Yata Itawa, which is Swahili for join your state association. You didn't know that, did you?
I did.
White Hat Way spelled backwards in Swahili is join your state association.
I had no idea that.
So
you
I've been slipping subliminal stuff on people. I felt compelled to share.
That's hilarious, honey. White Hat Way. That's another thing, is if you guys don't know what White Hat Way is, all of you, because it's been really fun to kind of watch as the viewership grows of what it is that we're doing. We're seeing that there are a lot of people who aren't necessarily in any of the Facebook groups are starting to listen and chime in, and we're getting some feedback from them. And so those of you who are out there that are not familiar with the White Hat Way, White Hat Way is something that's very foundational for everything that we have built, from the Octane Coaching to Buy Here, Pay Here Institute to what we're doing here to the Nation as well will be, Nation TV as well will be. That's a very foundational piece, and it's the ethics side of how we're approaching education. And so on BHPHinstitute.com is a page that's about the White Hat Way. Right. And that will be shortly shared amongst all of our platforms so that you are able to find that wherever you are that intersects with the things that we're creating.
Yeah. And I look forward to telling the part of our story around that, and we got to get to our conversation, but I look forward to telling the story around the White Hat Way and about my grandfather, Pablo Trujillo, who was and I've got some great pictures that I'll share when the time comes to tell.
Yeah, it's kind of about your dad.
Yeah, there's a little bit. I mean,
and your grandpa.
Yeah. My grandfather was kind of the epitome of the caballero, the gentleman cowboy, and so I look forward to telling that story.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful story. So I'm looking forward to you sharing that as well. We do have one more quick thing though. We got a nod yesterday from the folks at FIADA, which is going to be happening the 2nd through the 4th of next month. So it's just a few weeks away. Excuse me. And they gave us a nod to broadcast our session live.
Yep.
So we're going to be doing that. So that we're speaking on the 4th, which is a Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern. And so it'll be like right here.
Yep.
Like a podcast, but except this time we will have cameras on.
Well, yeah.
I'll be gussied.
We know you can find us on YouTube. We'll get permission on the Facebook stuff, but yeah, just be aware. We'll put the word out about where to find the link to that. And so we're glad that FIADA has agreed to let us broadcast live. That's a really important subject that we first presented at the Texas conference.
Yep.
And we really look forward to bringing that.
About like business plans, know where you want to go.
Yeah. That's really the topic. It's kind of business plans on steroids.
But anyone at any stage of your business, this is something that is really relevant from the very, very beginning to I'm like trying to figure out, I'm ready to retire. So what do I do?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Well, we also had dealers in that session in Texas came up to me after who were many years, decades of experience. And so they were inspired by that presentation. And like, I think it is going to reach people in a way that, business plans sound like pretty dry stuff, but we amped it up a little bit.
Well, we
brought some squiggly lines.
We bring our personality to it too. So that's kind of fun.
You bring yours. I bring donuts.
You bring donuts. Yes. Honey, don't promise things you're not willing to follow through
on.
Okay. So we have this is a little bit of a beta test on doing something like this. So Chad,
you mean Tim Lawrence?
Sorry. What was I thinking? Chad. Tim Lawrence is all the way on the other side of the country from us. And so when we go live, it's like 6 a.m. Remember we did that at NIADA that one time when we announced the nation. It's really early. And so he asked if we would mind doing it like a decent hour for him. And
so we pre-recorded is what she's trying to say. We pre-recorded Tim's his
so
appearance.
I have it loaded up. And so we're going to go forward and play the recording. So it's, there shouldn't be any hiccups. So this is the first time that we're doing something like this. So let's see how that rolls. So here we go. This is our recorded interview with Tim Lawrence, the CEO of LHPH Capital. Hey, we are really happy to have a special guest today. This is a special recording because our special guest happens to live on the West Coast. So when we go live, it's like 6 a.m. And we've done that before when we were at NAIDA. It was not easy.
But Tim might not be a coffee drinker, but I personally just say I'm not responsible for anything I say or do before my second cup of coffee. So.
Yep. So we have today with us Tim Lawrence, who is the CEO of LHPH Capital.
Right.
We're really glad that you're joining us, Tim.
Welcome, Tim.
Hey, thank you guys. So happy to be here.
Yeah, we've known about LHPH. I shared with you before that, I've been familiar with LHPH for many years. And so I know that you guys are out there kind of spearheading the charge to introduce dealers to leasing as an alternative to traditional buy here, pay here. So we're glad you're able to be here and educate some of our folks. We also know you've got your conference right around the corner, September 16th and 17th, right? Friday and Saturday in San Diego.
Yes, exactly. And we're doing a little happy hour, cocktail hour the evening before.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So is there still time? I think we're going to broadcast this maybe Friday. So is there, can people register up to the day of?
Yeah, there is time there. We have a few spots left. So please feel free to reach out, register. And we did get a pretty big block of rooms, so we still have a few rooms left.
Nice.
So it should work out.
Perfect.
Nice.
Perfect.
We'll share in the comments on the feed itself when it goes out. We'll make sure and share how
people can find it.
People can find it, and the link in the comments to make sure and jump to over there and get plugged into that conference. But yeah, we want to talk to you today about, and knowing that your role is really on the capital side of LHPH. We want to talk about that first. First of all, how long have you been with the company, and how did you find yourself in this space?
Oh, great question. I never anticipated in getting into auto finance, especially a specialty side like this. I originally was a marriage and family therapist. Surprise, surprise.
What?
And and so after graduate school, I did that for a little bit, was newly married, and realized, wow, this is going to be really challenging to care for my family in an expensive place like San Diego. And I got into medical device sales for about 10 years. I built my way up, and I was totally content. I was managing 9 states for the sales and operations of a large organization, loving it. And Terry Bowdler, the owner of LHPH Capital, was working on selling his other leasing company, and had experience in consulting in Lease Here, Pay Here, and wanted to make the pivot into being a lender. And he was looking for somebody, and because we had been friends and he had been a mentor of mine, he asked me to join.
Mhm.
And after 6 months of saying, I'm not sure, I don't think so, um, I took the leap in, and it was phenomenal to learn the space from the ground up, really just being curious, asking questions, developing our products so that it could really be well suited to this space.
Mhm.
And so in 2017, I was the third employee, and we were just sort of getting our feet wet then. And here we are now, years
Wow.
later. Yeah,
Yeah.
doing great. Sure feels like there's an inflection point for Lease Here, Pay Here. There are so many dealers interested, dealers converting, and I think probably the biggest thing, and I mentioned this to both of you, that the way that you say it is so perfect. Buy here, pay here dealers doing leasing. It's just an in-house finance product that's a little bit different with unique features and benefits.
Yeah, we definitely, and we want to get into some of those today. With my experience from the space, and I've been exposed to leasing through, a couple of clients and managed a store for quite a time. And so we're familiar with leasing and some of the benefits. Certainly, sales tax coming to mind, the ability to avoid having to set up a related finance company like most of our, buy here, pay here dealers do. So there's definitely some strong benefits, and there's some things that I need to understand. And by the way, I got to circle back and put in a mention for you. Mentioned Terry Bowdler. I mean, wow, what a great mentor! It's one of the brightest minds in the country. Certainly, the foremost authority on leasing, as far as I know. And so,
Yes,
he's a good guy to learn from.
yes, couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So let's talk about the funding side of the business first. Like, help me understand. I know you're in the capital side of leasing, and as we've talked about in the past, is like one of the challenges sometimes for folks who choose to go the leasing route. They'll find trouble sourcing the right capital to fund, their buy here, pay here contracts, or lease here, pay here contracts rather. So how would that work with you guys?
Yes, a great question. The way that we finance it, because there is always some sort of concern on, well, what do you do with the residual from a financing aspect?
Mm.
What we do is we parallel a promissory note for the cost of the vehicle plus reconditioning with the same term as your lease. So if your lease is 36 months or 42 months, that's the same amount that our loan will be on that vehicle. And we do this, our software does it on every single vehicle, so that you're paying principal and interest to us while you're collecting payments from your customer. And that leaves you a cash spread because of the markup to the vehicle plus the money factor or implicit rate in the lease. And that's your operating capital as you're paying down the loan with us, which then becomes an asset to you because it'll be paid off. And then there's a lump sum towards for you as the dealer, that you can either get a residual buyout at the end of the contract, or you can recycle it again into a new lease contract. And at that point, your vehicle's paid off. So it's 100% cash. And what we see with our dealers as they get into their second and third lease cycles is they have a huge influx of cash. It's a little bit more disciplined on the front end, which is great because it's pushing you to delever on a long-term game. And then you have your high earnings and high profitability just at the time as you're probably understanding leasing the best, your portfolio, your customers. So it's a pretty cool program that under Terry's mentorship we've been able to put together.
Nice. So as I understood, you said your advance to the dealer is equal to the cost of the vehicle.
Yeah, so let's say that they pay $9,000 at the auction for the vehicle, and then their average reconditioning, let's say, is $1,000 or $900 or something close to that.
Mhm.
Then we'll finance both of those and then do an amortizing loan down to zero.
So if I follow the, what in buy here, pay here would be the down payment, and leasing's got a little different name, but it's still the cash commitment from the customer that stays with the dealer, it sounds like.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then one last thing to add to that is, because there's a high frequency of delinquency or defaults that come up, we give our dealers a period of time. It's usually 60 days to put in a new lessee or customer into that same vehicle while still paying that amortizing loan with us. And that keeps them on track to continue to pay that down. So they're not paying 60 months on one vehicle, principal and interest, or interest only with borrowing base adjustments, and they can actually delever.
Right. That's a clever structure. I get it. So that's smart. I like the way for a dealer to be able to cover their costs and keep producing contracts, build up on their portfolio and cash flow. And this may not be your particular expertise, but I'm always trying to grasp this idea around, if I were to lease a car to a consumer tomorrow, then the day after I lease it, how does my balance sheet look? Is there just a leased automobile on my balance sheet as an asset, or are there other? And again, I didn't prepare you for this question, so if you don't know,
no, that's great.
Answer later. So what does that look like on the balance sheet?
It depends on if it's a capital lease or an operating lease, but let's go with operating lease because that's most common for a lease here, pay here contract.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it'll look on your balance sheet is there will be a receivables, an accounts receivable, just like there would be for buy here, pay here. And then there's a contra account that has that same amount. So it's like a plus minus on the asset side. And those cancel each other out, but you're seeing what the receivables are. And then what's actually meaningful is that there's lease inventory. And that lease inventory is the cost of the vehicle that you put into it, plus your reconditioning that qualifies so that you can capitalize it out. And then minus your depreciation, that would be about a 5-year useful life of 20% per year that would be subtracted out on your books.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I can grasp that. I think, as I always say, that the accounting side to me was always kind of nebulous, and that wasn't among my responsibilities,
Right.
in managing these dealerships, but I still needed to understand it, obviously, as a manager. So this was always, part of the more challenging thing. And it's easy if you just look at just raw cash flow, that's a little bit easier, but to try to understand the financials and how these things impact the balance sheet is a little bit different thing. So one of the other things that came up, we recently recorded another podcast with our friend Bill Elizondo. I know you know Bill.
Yeah.
And
Love Bill.
Yeah, one of the things that came up in that conversation was the thing about the pay-as-you-go states, which I was out of touch about that. Michelle and I mostly live in the buy here, pay here space, and so we know how that works for dealers in buy here, pay here. But what's different for pay-as-you-go states in leasing?
Yeah, great question also. So a pay-as-you-go state essentially means that the sales tax that you collect on the lease contract is going to be paid out equally over the life of the lease based off of the money that's collected. So let's say, just for the sake of it, that sales tax is 10%. So this is we can track it easily. And you collect $1,000 on the down payment, then 10% of that $1,000 is what you actually pay to the state. So $100. And then 10% of the payment that you receive per month or biweekly will also be paid to the state only as it's collected. So that means if your customer defaults, you didn't have to pay any sales tax in advance on that. You don't have to try to get it back. It's just you don't pay it.
Okay.
And so that levels it out over a longer period of time, and it significantly helps your cash flow really until your lease cycle catches up. So you probably have about 3 years of gaining that benefit in a pay-as-you-go sales tax state, and there's about 30 states that fall into that category, which you can find on our website. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we saw that at the website, and we would urge people to find their way to the website. You guys have got a lot of great resources and information videos at your website, which is LHPH.com, right?
Yes, exactly. Try to
Yeah.
make it as simple as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
That's an easy enough domain. So then, yeah, so people can learn a lot of this, the details behind the things that we're touching on, pretty superficially here today. But there are some distinct advantages for sure, in that industry. One of the things that I've talked about, and of course you and I've talked about it, Tim, is like one of the challenges that we see in leasing is, and keep in mind, Michelle and I work with a lot of startups, people that are just launching and buy here, pay here. And so
Hmm.
even from the very beginning, when we're helping them with their cash modeling, we ask them to think about what an exit looks like. And even though they're just barely getting started, we want them to think about if something should change and you needed an off ramp and you wanted to liquidate, your contracts, what would that look like? And from my perspective, it seems like the capital market is pretty limited. We know there's lots of buyers. They're always approaching us trying to get our dealers to sell them the buy here, pay here paper.
Right.
On the lease side, we don't see as much of that. So what can you tell us about the secondary market and the exit factor?
Yeah, I think that's a really important topic to cover. And as you're starting a business, it's always important to think about what is my plan in the event that I want to exit this business. And I think it's exactly that, a plan that you want to have available to you. And so in that, buy here, pay here is unique, I think, in most startup businesses, in that there are a little bit more options for a secondary market if you want to exit, versus if you were to start an IT company that had service contracts and
Mhm.
you needed to figure out how to wind them down. Lease here, pay here is probably more similar to other startups than buy here, pay here, because you need to set up a plan of what will I do in the event that I want to get out of this space. So I think if you put together your plan and you say, what are my best options? Probably your first best option is, I want to delever over time and then wind down my portfolio. So because that's going to maximize your earnings as the dealer. And if you can do that successfully, then it's going to be very smooth, because as you wind down your portfolio, you slowly reduce your collections, and your collections don't have to be on site of a dealership. They can be in another small office building or a small office space or a WeWorks or anything like that, because that's all you're doing from that point on. Um, I think the next question is, well, if I wanted to exit sooner, what could I do? And that seems to be maybe the point of your question. So if I was going to exit sooner, there are options to do it. If you have a really large portfolio, like over 5 million, then Westlake is a really good option for you. They'll buy lease contracts or they'll service them out. And then if it's on the smaller side, you can go to companies like Car Financial and like Alamo Financial, who will either purchase or service them down. And I'm sure, as you know, it all depends on how healthy your portfolio is. If
Mhm.
you've gotten out of trust with your lender, if it looks like there's actually something meaningful that they can have their own earnings and profitability from over that lifespan. And then I think the last thing is, are there any peer dealerships, either locally or in my network, who would purchase my portfolio or would wind it down? And so that's sort of how we coach our dealers to work through it. There are less opportunities for a secondary market, but it's still there.
Okay.
We cut out a little bit, like we had a bit of a buffering or internet lag there. So I would have you maybe
Oh no.
Yeah,
just the last part
that
about
last bit.
the
Yeah.
just in terms of
The very last point that you were making.
I think it's that there is a smaller secondary market. It's still
Mhm.
there and present. Westlake, Car Financial, Alamo
Mhm.
Financial, and then
'Cause you've
any
got neighboring.
dealerships, yeah, in your local area or in your network, are really good opportunities to have
Gotcha.
them either wind it down or sell it to them.
yeah,
Gotcha.
that makes sense to
That
me.
does.
Even in a buy here, pay here environment, we would be suggesting people look at that, because to me, the portfolio could very well be worth more to somebody across town than it is
Right.
to a remote, collection finance company or whatever. So yeah, that's definitely worth thinking about. But yeah, that's good information, Tim. I appreciate you making time to join us, and we hope that we, got to connect with you in time to spread the word for your conference. If they miss the conference, it's just important for folks to know how they can reach Tim and LHPH, you can always reach out to us. We know how to find them as well, but we've got Tim's email on the screen there, so you can definitely find him that way.
Yes.
That's how we found him.
Yeah,
so.
it's TLawrence@LHPH.com. If you want to reach Tim directly, that is again TLawrence@LHPH.com. If you just want to go directly to the website, I'm sure the information will be there about the upcoming event. And that would be LHPH.com. Like you said, we made it simple. Super simple.
Yeah. So yeah, for our listeners, Lease Here Pay Here is definitely worth a look for many of you, and especially at high cost of cars, there may be some added benefits for you to consider. At this time when cost of car is high, so there's other reasons to look. But yeah, we know that they're a prime resource if you want to look at leasing.
Excellent. Hey, Tim, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking some time and getting some, for me, this is all very educational because I think we've established with everybody that listens that I'm the newbie. I'm the one that's wet behind the ears. I feel like I learned quite a bit today about leasing. And so I really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
All right.
And we're back.
Phones
were difficult, and Tim got to sleep in, so that worked out.
So, it looks like our grand experiment worked.
Yeah.
And we were able to do that effectively. So
I hope folks found that educational. We just we're happy to try to help get Tim to the show so we could talk about their event, which is a week away. So it's not too late to get into the LHPH conference, their summit in San Diego. And so we would invite you to find your way to, Michelle shared the link to find the way to their registration page. And so, yeah, you can definitely check out leasing if that's something you want to explore. And we're hearing about quite a few dealers moving established operations from Buy Here, Pay Here to leasing. And so there's lots of motivations and a lot of factors to consider there. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that Jim did Jim did a podcast with Bill Elizondo about Lease Here, Pay Here versus Buy Here, Pay Here.
Right.
That should be on our YouTube channel.
Just waiting for Bill to give the okay to release it.
Oh, that's right, Bill.
Yeah.
Have you not given the okay yet to release that? Okay.
So
as soon as we get that, then that will be available. And so that's, we've taken up plenty of everybody's time. We're hoping that you guys have a fantastic Friday. Again, don't forget that we will be broadcasting live for our address at FIAD in Orlando, Florida on the 4th of October. And then we also have coming up the Buy Here, Pay Here Regional Town Hall on October 19th in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. It's being hosted by our good friend Tommy Brandis. And that entire event will be broadcast live. And so did you want to say anything at all about the agenda just real fast before we head out?
Put that aside. Let's see if I can find it again. But yeah, I think we can cover that later. But yeah, we do have an agenda coming together. We'll start to share that soon.
We'll talk about that for sure on Monday and probably even have it potentially published by Monday.
And Brett Buick, I see that you were listening this morning. If you're still listening, please don't close that fundraiser yet. We're going to do what we can to help you get to that number. So we're still out there raising money.
Yes. Have a great Friday and a great weekend as well. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for joining.